Welcome to Afrik-innovscience, your source for cutting-edge discussions on science, technology, and engineering in Africa. I'm Patrick Kamunye, and today we have a distinguished guest joining us, Dr. Nigel Aminake Makoah, a scientific researcher and consultant. He's here to share his incredible journey in the world of protein biochemistry and infectious diseases research. But before we dive into this enlightening conversation, let's get to know him a bit better. Good day, Dr. Nigel. Thank you very much to be with us today. Please, can you present yourself like that for the people who don't know you? Who are you?
I'm Nigel Aminake Makoah. I'm originally from Cameroon, where I was born. I was born in Yaoundé, and I grew up in a small town in East Cameroon called Bilabo. If you have any idea of the east part of Cameroon, it was mostly in the forest, so it was more for forest timber exploitation area. We have only one high school that was a French public school. So that's where I obtained my baccalaureate D, which is mathematics, biology, and chemistry. And then I moved to Yaoundé, back to Yaoundé, where I was born, the University of Yaoundé 1, where I completed my master's in 2006. At the time it was still called 2A, Diplôme d'études approfondies. So I studied biochemistry. So I like to refer to myself as a biochemist. And after my master's degree, I spent some time in the US at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, where I gain extensive knowledge in molecular biology for 6 months. Then I returned to Cameroon and spent about 9 months and head off to Germany in Würzburg, in Bavaria, where I completed my PhD in infection and immunity. So working on malaria and HIV. So there was mostly a lot of molecular parasitology and virology involved, and a bit of pharmacokinetics. Yeah, following my studies, I did a postdoc in Aachen in Germany, and then moved to South Africa, where I started another postdoc and eventually just left the postdoc to go work for the National Institute for Communicable Disease, where my journey as a protein biochemist really took shape. And since then, and after that, I moved to the University of Free State, where now I'm a lecturer and a scientist. So it's not only about research anymore, but we do some teaching also. So we need to train the next generation of African scientists. So while we're doing research, which is important, very important, we still have to train the next generation of scientists and researchers on the continent. So yeah, that's briefly my journey.
It's really fascinating. Now, Dr. Makoah, can you delve into your journey in the field of protein biochemistry and infectious diseases research and tell us what initially ignited your passion for this area of study?
Oh, well, so infectious diseases, as I said, I grew up in a small town that was in the middle of the forest in the East Cameroon. So infectious diseases were rampant in that area. Infectious diseases like malaria, trypanosoma, on many bacterial diseases. So you grow up in an environment where your classmate in primary school and high school die from meningitis, and you start thinking, so how can I help? I had already an interest in health science, but I was not sure if I want to be a doctor I didn't know much about science. With us, it was like if you're interested in health science, you become a doctor.
Doctor.
A medical doctor. We didn't know the other doctor that is a researcher then because, research was not something that was big topic in our environment, especially me coming from a small province where we were very far from the big cities. So, but as I was finishing my high school, I did realize that I actually don't want to be a medical doctor because I don't deal well with people suffering. So I did my little research before I went to Waikele, and that's how I end up in biochemistry because I was looking for that topic that would allow me to stay in the health science without being
people.
patient. Yes. Yeah. So that's how I started studying biochemistry. So my infectious disease, like when you do research on health science in Cameroon, it will mostly be on very important infectious diseases like malaria and tuberculosis, HIV. So as I was finishing my register for my master's, I had the opportunity to be in contact with a professor and lecturer that were working on malaria. So that's where I started my journey on infectious disease. So I was working on malaria for my master's. So it was just molecular characterization of mutation in the sexual stage of the parasite. That was just a simple project. Then that's how I kickstarted in infectious disease. Protein biochemistry is not well developed on the continent because it's resource demanding. So I didn't know much about protein biochemistry. So we do a lot of epidemiology, doing a lot of molecular work that's feasible on the continent. But once I got to Germany, my lab was very heavily working on protein science. And science, proteins is life. Protein is what carries the function in our body. So if you're a biochemist and you don't do proteins, then you are not a biochemist. Simple as that.
Exactly. Because you are doing the chemistry of life and you have to deal with proteins, which
so that's how I become interested in protein because proteins does everything in our body. They are drug targets. They are important for function of our cells. They are receptors for drugs. They are receptors for viruses. They are receptors for signals, immune signals, some proteins that are involved in basically activating cells in the immune system and stuff like that. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, this part of the science, I really want to be good at it. So I did a lot of assay development in my PhD, and one of my projects was just to identify potential target to treat malaria. So that's how I started learning how to make proteins. I started getting involved in that kind of project, and I really enjoyed it. So when I finished my PhD, I decided, oh, okay, that's the direction I want to take. So with proteins, you can do everything. Proteins can be drugs, proteins can be vaccine candidate, and proteins are also very important for diagnostics. So you need to make quality proteins to be able to develop serological assay. For example, like the rapid test that you go to the hospital in 5 minutes, you have your result. That's because of protein biochemistry. Without protein biochemistry, that's not possible. So you need vaccine, you need good proteins. So for me, it becomes to me like one of the most important molecules in health research. So that's how I became passionate about it. And I still learn every day. And I hope I could train as much people to be interested and to carry the agenda of developing the field on the continent. So that's how I got into infectious disease and protein biochemistry.
Wonderful, Dr. Makoah. You have had a remarkable career. Could you highlight some of the significant projects or research endeavors you have been a part of that have left a positive impact on your field?
Well, I wish I get there. So we are still working towards that. So I've worked on projects like I can say I've worked in I'm multidisciplinary and like I use my knowledge of protein biochemistry to help in different needs in the field of in the research on infectious disease. So I've worked on malaria, I've worked on TB, I've worked on HIV, and currently I work on zoonotic pathogens. So zoonotic pathogen and pathogen that can jump from animal to human. One of the example is COVID. So there are so many other viruses that are present in animals and not causing diseases in animal, but that can cause disease in human. So that's the kind of work I do now. And for most of these viruses, there's no treatment, there's no vaccine, and sometimes the diagnostic is not accessible because of the cost. So in my current research, that's what I'm focusing on. So what we can say we have made an impact so far is the ability to generate those proteins that can be used for diagnostic. So we have not developed a diagnostic yet, but we are already midway. So most important is to make the proteins. Once you have the protein, then everything else can happen.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's inspiring to hear about your contributions, Dr. Makoah. Will you mind sharing some insights into the challenges you have encountered in narrowing the synthetic biology gap in Africa and how you have managed to address them?
As I mentioned briefly at the beginning, one of the big challenges are resources, are funding. The moment you leave South Africa and go to another African country or talk to another African country, recession African country, it's a field that is not a priority, despite its very big importance. Even in South Africa, it's still challenging, but we're trying to break the gap. It's not going to happen overnight. First of all, you need to get scientists that are interested in doing it, and then you need to find people who have the resources to fund that kind of research on the continent. As I say, it's the further you move and the most expensive it becomes. So that's why that's one of the big challenges. And the second thing is the resource, the human resource. As I said initially, most of the research on the continent is molecular based. We isolate DNA, we do a PCR, we sequence it. So this is straightforward science. We analyze the data, or we share the data with our international partner. But protein work, it takes a little bit more resources, and you need to get people interested. So that's the two things: get people interested and get the money to do the research.
Looking at it, how do you envision the future of biologics development in Africa? And what key role do you see yourself playing in shaping that future?
So I think the future of biologics is promising. I think with the recent pandemic and how the difficulty we had accessing vaccine, it is obvious now that we need to do our own vaccines. We need to make our own vaccines. So biologics usually is considered medication that are made out of living organisms. But in that list, you can put subunit vaccine that are made out of protein, or any protein that can be clinically relevant, right? So what I can say about, yes, of of course, I see myself as playing a pivotal role. If I'm given that platform, I want to contribute as much as I can in developing that field on the continent. So I hope to facilitate the growth of indigenous biotech companies on the continent and improve healthcare across the continent. But as I said, that needs resources, and that need not only financial resources, also need human resources.
As a lecturer and scientist in the division of biology, can you shed light on the strategies you employ to inspire and mentor the next generation of scientists in Africa?
Yes, at my university, I only teach honors students. That's people, that's student after their bachelor's degree. So that's 1 year after bachelor's degree. Other system we call Master 1. Yeah. So they do a little project. So I teach them molecular biology and research techniques. And one of my focus is to motivate them. To motivate them, first of all, to show them that they can do it. If other people can do it out of this continent, you also can do it. Exactly. There are no magic. There's no magic there. They are not brighter or more intelligent than you. They just have more resources. But with your little resources, you can do a lot of great things. So I like mentoring. I like mentoring young scientists. I also teach them hands-on experience. So all my students get taught basic practicals. Practically, I taught them basics of synthetic biology, how to modify an organism. So all my students in the honors level have to teach that. That's one thing I definitely passionate about. So sharing my passion with them and sharing my knowledge, and I hope to cultivate a new wave of scientists committed to tackling infectious disease.
You bring a wealth of expertise as a consultant. How do you believe your skills in protein biochemistry can be harnessed to tackle critical health issues in Africa?
So my consultant part of work was mostly with diagnostic company, helping them to establish. So because as a protein biochemist, I understand principles behind all the serological testing. So basically, my contribution is to help technologists understanding what they are doing. They don't necessarily have to, but if there's a problem that comes through, so you need somebody who understands a little bit the principle of the methodology. So that's how I got involved in the consulting thing. But otherwise, with protein biochemistry, I haven't been involved in consultation there because, as I said, we don't have companies actually in Africa that really, we have few in South Africa that are small companies that are now developing enzymes and antibodies, but I have never consulted for them. But in future, if there is more and more people interested in developing these companies, or if myself want to develop one of these companies, then then I can have a non-academic activity on the side. But as it is now, I'm willing to even share my knowledge for free for people who want to develop that field.
Wonderful. Dr. Makoah, your dedication to your work is truly commendable. What advice can you offer to aspiring scientists and researchers who aspire to make a significant impact in the life sciences within Africa?
To the aspiring scientists and researchers in Africa?
Exactly.
My advice is to remain passionate and persistent. It's difficult. it's easy to give up. Some days, even myself, I want to give up. But the solution is not in giving up. You have to be persistent. Your passion will always drive you. Your passion should always drive you. Everything in life is not a straight line. So that also comes with discovery and research. So you need to be persistent. You can seek mentorship if you prefer working with mentors. For me, I consider everyone I work with as my mentor. So I believe more in collaboration. Collaboration is important, and then you also have to leverage your international partnerships, whether it's in the West or in Africa. Everyone is important, and ensure that it's a fair and mutual relationship with mutual benefits. Yeah, the pursuit of knowledge is very important. Yeah. It's a powerful tool. Knowledge is a powerful tool. So you can get them. You should learn every day.
Dr. Makoah, now let's hear about some of the exciting projects or initiatives you are currently involved in or planning to undertake that have the potential to advance science and technology in Africa.
So one of my important projects now that I'm working on and that I want to really push to fruitful is to develop rapid diagnostic for Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. That is an hemorrhagic fever that it's not a huge problem. There are few cases, there are few outbreaks on the continent, but it has a high fatality rate, 10 to 40%. So, and it's now on the list of WHO as a priority pathogen. And the reason for that is if we get to a situation where the virus fully establishes itself in humans, it will have a very devastating effect on our economy. So we don't want to get there. So we need to prepare. We need to be prepared. So one of my goals now is to get a rapid diagnostic for this virus available, make it available for Africans. So because it will help us actually know exactly what are the potential pocket of infection and how we can actually prevent future outbreak and high mortality if the virus decide to jump from animal to human and totally.
Wonderful.
So that's my project, but I'm open to contribute to any other project on infectious disease. Yeah.
Wonderful, Dr. Makoah. All the best. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Going to help Africa to develop and also avoid diseases in the future with your research.
Yes.
All the best.
Research in Africa for Africa.
Exactly. Before we conclude this enlightening conversation, is there a final message of encouragement you would like to share with our audience, especially those who are keen on pursuing careers in science, technology, and engineering within the African continent?
So, yeah, I would like to encourage our audience, especially those interested in science and technology and engineering in Africa, to embrace the possibilities and challenges that come with this journey. Africa's scientific potential is immense, and we need everyone's contribution to have a transformative impact. So they should believe in their ability. They must remain curious, never stop learning. Together, we can shape a brighter future for the continent and beyond.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Together, we can do so many things. All together, African children, we must be together. You are from Cameroon, you are in South Africa, and you are contributing to improving research on the continent. You are showing with your work that we can collaborate, we can work together. All the best, Dr. Makoah.
Thank you so much, Patrick. It was a pleasure exchanging with you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. We stay in contact, and in the future, why not, you could organize a webinar or a conference on Afrik-innovscience. All the best.
True, definitely. And I would like to reach out to some of the speaker in your video and who are doing things that of mutual interest. And when the time comes, I might contact you to link me with them.
Surely.
If that's okay with you.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a nice Sunday.
Thank you. Same to you. And there you have it, a truly enriching discussion with Dr. Nigel Aminake Makoah, shedding light on his remarkable journey and the path to advancing science and technology in Africa. We hope you found this interview as insightful as we did. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging content on Afrik-innovscience. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. Goodbye.